In the ancient land of Israel, there lived a woman named Hannah. She was the beloved wife of Elkanah, a devoted man who loved her deeply. However, despite his affection, Hannah carried a burden that weighed heavily on her heart. She was barren. In a culture where children were seen as a sign of God's favor, her inability to conceive brought her great sorrow. To make matters worse, Elkanah had another wife, Peninnah, who had been blessed with many children. Peninnah took every opportunity to taunt and ridicule Hannah, reminding her of what she lacked. Year after year, whenever they traveled to the temple in Shiloh to worship and offer sacrifices, Peninnah's cruelty became unbearable. 1 Samuel 1:6-7. Though Elkanah tried to comfort her, saying, "Am I not more to you than 10 sons?" 1 Samuel 1:8. Hannah's pain remained. She longed for a child, not just to silence her tormentor, but to experience the joy of motherhood. Welcome to Bible Breakdown, where we bring Bible to life through powerful cinematic storytelling. A prayer that moved heaven. One day, in deep distress, Hannah rose from the feast and entered the temple alone. Overcome with emotion, she knelt before God and poured out her heart in silent agony. The words barely left her lips as she wept bitterly. In her desperation, she made a vow to the Lord. "Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head." 1 Samuel 1:11. She was so deep in prayer that Eli, the high priest, mistook her for a drunkard and rebuked her. But Hannah, with humility and sincerity, replied, "Not so, my Lord. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord." 1 Samuel 1:15. Moved by her faith, Eli blessed her and said, "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him." 1 Samuel 1:17. At that moment, something changed within Hannah. She left the temple no longer downcast, but filled with hope. God's answer, the birth of Samuel. True to his faithfulness, God remembered Hannah. In due time, she conceived and bore a son, naming him Samuel, which means God has heard. 1 Samuel 1:20. Her long season of waiting and weeping had turned into joy. But Hannah had made a vow, and she intended to keep it. She cherished every moment with her son, knowing that when he was weaned, she would have to fulfill her promise. Though it must have been difficult, Hannah did not hesitate. When the time came, she took young Samuel to the temple, bringing with her a sacrifice of gratitude. Standing before Eli, she said, "I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life he will be given over to the Lord." 1 Samuel 1:27-28. And there, in the house of God, Hannah dedicated her son to a life of divine service. A mother's reward and legacy. Hannah's story did not end with sacrifice. It was met with even greater blessings. Though she had given up her son to serve God, she was not left empty. The Lord honored her faithfulness and blessed her with more children, 3 sons and 2 daughters. 1 Samuel 2:21. Meanwhile, Samuel grew into one of the greatest prophets in Israel's history. He was the last judge of Israel, the man who anointed both King Saul and King David. Through him, Hannah's faith left a lasting impact not just on her family, but on the entire nation. Hannah also became known for her powerful prayer of thanksgiving, recorded in 1 Samuel 2:1-10, where she glorified God for his justice and faithfulness. Her words echoed the themes of humility, divine power, and the lifting of the lowly, truths that would be echoed centuries later in Mary's Song of Praise, Luke 1:46-55. Lessons from Hannah's story. Hannah's journey teaches us timeless truths. God hears your prayers. Even in the midst of waiting, God is listening. Faith requires surrender. Hannah trusted God enough to give back the very thing she longed for. Pain can birth purpose. Her suffering led to Samuel's birth, a prophet who changed history. God rewards faithfulness. Because of her obedience, Hannah received greater blessings. Are you in a season of waiting? Just like Hannah, you may be facing a situation where your prayers seem unanswered. But hold on to faith. God sees your tears, hears your cries, and is working behind the scenes. If you believe that God is faithful in his timing, comment "God hears me," and share this story with someone who needs encouragement today.